That week, we went through close to $1,000 for drugs and alcohol between the two of us and maybe a couple other people that came over.
When I was on my binge, smoking crack, I did it as much as possible, every day if possible.
I did a line of cocaine with my mom when I was 9 years old.
Just because everybody else was doing it, I figured I may as well try it at least once, right? It's not going to kill me. I may as well try it. See if I like it, and if I don't like it, I can stop.
The doctor told me the next day, or a couple of days later, another hour or so, I would have been dead because of sniffing.
We've all got real problems, but can't always solve them. We need someone to listen, cause we all need some talking.
Some try to ignore, but we've got to explore. We cannot hide it all away, let's do this together.
Whoa, I'll talk to you,
and you'll talk to me.
We've got to reach out to set ourselves free. The Degrassi Talks,
coast to coast, we hear real stories from real people.
Degrassi Talks, Degrassi listens.
You're not alone, let's do this together.
Degrassi Talks.
Drugs. As teens, we hear that word all the time. Drugs are bad for you, drugs can kill you, yet drugs are everywhere. I'm Felix Sanasi. On the Degrassi series, my character Yick experimented with different lifestyles, including drugs. For some of us, just saying no is a simple decision, but for others, it isn't that easy. I mean, why do some kids use drugs and others don't? Well, we traveled across the country to find out your views and stories about drugs and drug abuse.
Rolling and action.
Do you do drugs?
No.
Why are you smiling?
Because I've tried them, but I don't do them.
No, that's stupid. I use drugs. I don't think it's a crime. I don't approve of hard drugs. I don't approve of drugs that ruin people's lives, cocaine, crack, heroin.
Why do you think teenagers use illegal drugs?
The fact that they're not allowed to do it, sometimes that makes them want to do it more.
Curiosity, I think, started me on them. But I don't know what kept me going on them. I guess I just got hooked first thing.
In the Yukon, we visited Kathy. Kathy's drug use began very innocently.
I was hanging around with older people, so they were into it then, you know. They were 15 and 16 and 17 and stuff, so they were going through the little party phase, and I was just a little bit younger, but I was with them, so I was doing it just to fit in.
So what sort of drugs were you doing?
Well, mostly acid, mushrooms, and a little bit, we were dabbing in cocaine, but we were injecting it, we weren't starting it.
I think a lot of it is pure pressure. Like, if you're with a lot of people who do drugs, then you just feel like you don't fit in.
If you see a friend doing drugs and he looks like he's having a good time and it's not really affecting him, then, you know, you'd probably say, oh, well, if he's not dying, then I'm not going to either.
Well, I started using drugs just on a whim. One night, I walked into a friend's room, and there he was cutting up a chunk of hashish, and he threw me a chunk. I really didn't know much about drugs, so, you know, I went up to my roommate and I said, can you roll this for me? He rolled me up a joint, and after I had no real pressure, nobody was making me do it. I guess everybody had been doing it, I guess I just wanted to try it and, you know, see what it was like for myself. It became a daily habit, and once the habit continued, you know, it's like getting up in the morning and brushing your teeth. I get up in the morning and I smoke a joint, and that's the way that my day went after, you know, a week or so of using.
I think teenagers use drugs so they get their minds off other things, like the things that depress them.
I started using drugs to escape the problems I had, to be with popular people, to be with the in crowd.
We met Matt in a provincial jail. He has been convicted on several drug-related charges.
I had problems at home with my stepfather. I never got along well with him. We argued, screamed, yelled, had physical fights, and I just didn't want to think about it. It was great when I was on drugs because I didn't have to think about what was happening in my life, and think about what might happen tomorrow. And that was all that was on my mind, just getting away from the problems.
I did drugs to get the confidence back to become the best again. Because at a point in my life, I decided that I wasn't good enough to do this, and I wasn't good enough to do that, so I just started using drugs to get myself up again.
It was good to be almost a different person, and things seemed brighter and funnier, and it was great. So yeah, I continued.
What first comes to mind when I say drugs?
I guess having fun.
My mom and dad were both drug addicts. My brother's hyper, and they were, I don't know, they beat me more or less all the time. They like to, I guess that's whenever they'd get in a fight, they'd come to the kids and take it out on the kids first.
Why did they do that?
I guess they were just high all the time. Really out of it.
They were high?
Yeah. They're heroin addicts.
When did your experience with drugs start?
I did a line of cocaine with my mom when I was 9 years old. And she told me that if I was ever going to do drugs, she'd want me to do them under her roof. And one day she just pulled it out and made me do it. So ever since then, I kind of liked the feeling of cocaine. I started doing it a lot. I didn't realize I had a problem. It was just now and then, and it started getting every day. I didn't realize it until one day there was none there. And then I realized that I needed it.
What effects do drugs have on people?
They get you stoned, you get high.
I was withdrawn totally from everything. I would hide. I would smoke my drugs, and I wouldn't eat. I'd lost approximately, I guess, 25 pounds. I spent everything I had no regard for my family, for any of my friends. I really didn't care if they lived or died at that point.
What happened with your family, like your mom, when you started using?
Well, before I started using, we had a really good relationship, and it got even stronger when my parents divorced, but it deteriorated at a rapid speed once I started using. I just didn't care about her anymore. So we grew apart. I wouldn't even live with her anymore.
Kathy's drug addiction got so bad, she left home to live on the streets of Vancouver.
You do what you have to do when you're living on the streets, you know? And you were so high that you didn't care if you were sharing a needle with a drunken bum on the street or if you were in a high-class hotel room with somebody, you know? As long as you're getting that fix, it was okay.
One thing you have to know about crack is that after the first hit, it's addicted. You are addicted. Right after the first one, you need more. And it's an immediate response. It's not over days. You need the next one now. 5 minutes ago, you need it. That's how it is. You get the taste in your mouth, even when you're not doing it. You get the taste in your mouth. You remember how good it felt, and you have to try it again because you know that it's so great.
Hey, when I say drugs, what's the first thing that comes into your head?
Illegal drugs.
Crack.
Pot, cocaine, heroin.
Trouble.
I used to do solvents, like gasoline and all sorts of that.
No problem, Pat. Brian is the youth chief of his band in Norway House, north of Winnipeg. Until a few years ago, Brian was a serious solvent abuser.
Why? Yes, solvent abuse has been an issue for Native communities for many years. And in some areas it's getting better, some areas it's getting worse. And I think one of the reasons why a lot of Native communities, people in Native communities use solvent is because that's what's readily available. That's what gets you away from the hardship, the pain that you might be experiencing in your life. For me, that's what it was. You know, it was something that I could do that I didn't really have to use my mind. I didn't have to feel any pain.
At what age did you start abusing solvents?
Well, I guess I did start at a very early age. I started I think I was about 7 or 8 years old around there. And it's hard for me to recall back, you know, because of the effects solvents have had on me. You know, a lot of memories are not there. But I started very early.
I don't know, for a long time I wouldn't tell anybody that I use glue, you know, like I'm a glue victim or I'm a glue squish head or whatever, you know. I wouldn't tell people that because I always thought that they'd look down at me like you're too poor to like buy acid, or you're too poor to buy a gram or an ounce or whatever, you know. And I always figured, well, they would kind of look down at me, or, you know, they're going to kind of think I'm some kind of whacked out individual.
What side effects happened when you were on the drugs?
A lot of nausea, a lot of blackouts, loss of memory loss, a lot of bad side effects.
We locked ourselves in a home, in a house, and we sniffed there. Geez, I don't know how long it was, a couple of days, and eventually